I'm letting you control.
All right, we are on, guys. How are you doing today?
I hope everyone's good, and I also hope Matthew joins us today. I know it was his birthday yesterday.
Yeah,
so
Matthew,
we have to make sure
missed
he's
out
watching.
yesterday. Yeah, but hopefully he'll tune in today and we can wish him a happy birthday here.
Yeah.
A belated birthday. But you know, it's going to be a fun Tropical Tuesday because today we actually have life teaching moment. You know, we have a tropical system out there, which is actually now a post-tropical system.
Right.
But we'll talk about what that means. But Tropical Storm Arthur formed in the Atlantic Basin, and now it's a post-tropical storm. We'll talk all about what that means here in just a moment. But to let you know exactly where Arthur is, you can't actually see it on radar because it's too far away from the radar sites. There it is on satellite. That is post-tropical storm Arthur, kind of moving away from the United States. My dog just came over here and said hello to me. I was getting his attention real quick.
So we're getting a hello from Michael. Yolanda's joining us. Hey, glad that you're joining us today. Kelly also saying hi, and Michael also saying hi.
Well, welcome to all of you. I hope you all are having a great day.
Yeah.
So Tropical Arthur has wind speeds of 60 miles per hour. So
still strong wind.
Yeah, and remember 39 miles per hour, that's when it becomes a tropical storm. So yeah, definitely strong enough wind to be a tropical storm. So what gives? Why is it now post-tropical Arthur instead of a tropical storm?
And for the most part, it's lost its tropical characteristics, right?
Yeah, that's exactly why this is now post-tropical Arthur compared to tropical storm Arthur, is because it's lost tropical characteristics. When we talk about tropical systems, we've talked about it before, they need to be stacked, vertically stacked. They need to stand up straight like a top. Once they start to lean a bit, you may start to get a little bit of funnel breeze, like a warm front and a cold front. That's not typically something we have in tropical systems. Arthur now has those, so that makes it a post-tropical cyclone.
I've also been talking about how for the last 6 years, really 6 years in a row, we've had a tropical system form before she'll start hurricane season, which officially begins, by the way, on June 1st. So it's always important to even stay weather aware and watch the tropics even during May, right?
Yeah, because sometimes there can be a few storm systems out there. There's actually even a tropical wave kind of east of the Lesser Antilles. The thing is that wave, though, doesn't have a chance for development.
Right.
But to let you know, there's stuff out there that we do need to watch closely. Again, that tropical wave, no chance for tropical development, but of course we'll continue to watch it.
And Arthur did form over the weekend. It formed east of Central Florida, so it was still not impacting land when it really formed, but they still saw impacts along the coast, you know, like rip currents and also some gusty winds and even some heavy rainfall.
Right, and I'm trying to draw the line the best I can here. It kind of brushed up the outer banks of North Carolina and caused a little bit of flooding right there along the coastline, but did not cause too big of issue. That's because you know, the side of the storm that hit the North Carolina coastline was actually also the weaker side of the storm. Now they still have a lot of impacts with rip currents. Even though the storm's way out there, rip currents are still a big issue on the East Coast today. So people need to take it easy out there if they're on the coast of North Carolina. But it kind of formed down towards South and Central Florida, just off the Treasure Coast, which is located between Stewart and Sebastian, Florida, south of Cape Canaveral. And then it made its way off to the north and east, pretty good pace because, again, it formed over the weekend. And here we are on Tuesday. It's already well off towards the East Coast and now a post-tropical system. So, again, Arthur did not have the longest life. It's expected to remain a post-tropical cyclone, but you know, this isn't the first Arthur to brush up along the North Carolina coastline.
Right. So looking at Arthur over the years, could we actually pull this up so people could see it a little bit better here?
Yeah, let me pull it up all the way. Give me 1 second, guys.
All right, so we have the current track that you could see there, the post-tropical Arthur, which is right now, but you could see the differences in line colors. Oh, go ahead.
And this is important to note. So you may be saying, wait, why are there so many Arthurs on the screen? Remember, every few years, a name is recycled and reused. The only time we ever retire a name is whenever there's it's a significant storm, like Andrew, when it hit the coast of Florida, South Florida, and Homestead. Like Katrina, when it hit the Mississippi Gulf Coast in New Orleans. Like Harvey, when it impacted the Texas coastline in Rockport all the way up towards Galveston. And another one, a storm that actually didn't have the highest of ranks as far as a hurricane can be concerned, very high on the Saffir-Simpson scale, but still a lot of damage, was Ike. Ike was a pretty significant storm that was retired. And Arthur, units every 4 years, they recycle the names. And Arthur occurred in 2000 and I guess it was in 1996, 2004. And you see that some of the previous Arthurs that were also not very significant, because remember, we haven't retired the name, also brushed up along the North Carolina coast.
And something interesting to note is when you see the green lines with the previous Arthur tropical systems, those were actually tropical storms. Now there's one little orange line that also scoops along the East Coast there. That was actually a Category 2 hurricane.
Wow.
Yeah.
But again, probably not as significant for the North Carolina coast. Now it probably did some storm surge and stuff, but it looks like the weaker side of the storm did not make landfall in North Carolina. I mean, the stronger side of the storm did not make landfall in North Carolina, which, remember, that's that front right quadrant.
And what's interesting here is that most of them have, you know, the same Arthur in 2020.
Yeah, it's all kind of similar. So we typically see that. We'll see trends in different tropical systems throughout the years, and ones that occur early on, ones that begin with the letter A, typically impact the East Coast more rather than the Gulf.
So that's kind of an interesting perspective there too.
Yeah, and remember, this is kind of a recap. We're going to be doing a lot of recaps today because we're able to bring in this real life scenario. Storm movement will let us know where the stronger part of the hurricane is. Now, the stronger part of a tropical system is typically, not every time, typically the front right quadrant. That's where the maximum storm impact is, the highest storm surge, some of the heavier rains. Sometimes a lot of tornadoes can be found here, and the strongest winds. And again, that stayed offshore. That did not make landfall. And actually, the storm didn't make landfall as a whole, but the part of the storm that impacted the North Carolina coastline was the front left, which can typically have significant storm surge, but not as bad as the front right. They did see a little bit of coastal flooding there along the North Carolina coastline. But again, this was a weaker tropical storm when it brushed up against, so storm surge wasn't as much of an issue. The back right has significant wind. That stayed over the water. And the back left is typically weaker, but can still be considered dangerous. That also made it over the North Carolina coastline. So again, the weaker side of the storm, thankfully, is the part of the storm that impacted the North Carolina coast.
And it's important, especially in the northern hemisphere, to know that it spins counterclockwise. So think of a clock, it's spinning the complete opposite way. So that's why storm movement is so important, and why the front right quadrant has the maximum storm impact. It's because it's moving, you know, the winds within that storm, that tropical system, are moving counterclockwise. So that's why it has the maximum storm impact. And you were talking about storm surge, which is, you know, a great example of the winds just kind of bringing in the water on land.
Right, pushing that water onto land. And again, that's with the movement of the storm. So if this is the North Carolina coastline and it goes like this, well, the water is being pushed over here more. So it's not really pushing up against the North Carolina coast as much, which was good to see. And, you know, we saw some edits in the forecast cone whenever the hurricane hunters started flying this, which I believe it became a tropical storm Saturday night, right?
Yes.
It was Saturday morning then. The hurricane hunters flew the storm, or the system, when it was still in Invest. It was Invest 90L off the Florida coast. And the something I found was interesting, NOAA Corps, which fly the Gulfstream 4, and also fly, I accidentally clicked that there, guys, and the P3 Orion, they actually did not fly the storm. The only group to fly the hurricane was the Air Force Reserves out of Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi. I'm not sure why NOAA Corps decided not to fly it, but they opted not to fly the storm this year. Oh, I popped something up there, guys. Sorry about that. But they fly the the C-130J Super Hercules. They fly out of Keesler Air Force Base, which you could see just a moment ago. I'll go ahead and zoom out. They fly all the way from Biloxi, Mississippi, right there on the Mississippi coastline. They flew over Florida, and then they made their way all the way over to the storm. And this isn't a current radar, but where the storm was over the South Carolina, North Carolina coast, you can see this kind of flight pattern they did. They flew over, they then flew down, and then they flew up to the northwest, and then they flew due east, and then they flew down. They call that the alpha pattern. That's the pattern that they fly in order to kind of gather data as they fly through the storms and make the forecast more precise. They fly this pattern, and once they gather the data, it can improve the forecast cone and make the forecast cone smaller. Holly,
someone brought you something.
My dog just brought us a little sheep. He's wanting to play right now. Sorry, guys. But if you hear squeaking in the background, that would be our dog Ollie just playing with his toys. But yeah, that'll let you know that that alpha pattern that they fly and they gather the data, they make the forecast cone more precise. So we mentioned the forecast cone earlier. We saw it here. You notice that shape of it. That is because it gets wider as it gets further out, because that's when we have less certainty of the track. But that cone tightened up big time whenever
it gets smaller over the years. I've noticed,
because we have more information coming in about
better
the storm.
Technology too.
Yeah.
Right.
So pretty cool. Again, the hurricane hunters that were flying this storm, helping us gather data, and we've also been using other weather models to find out how it will be steered. And we look at the upper level pattern, and for right now. Actually, let me see if I can add a pause point here, guys.
And there's the squeaking.
There's the squeaking from our dog again. So right now we have this upper level pattern where we have this upper level low right here. And that causes the winds to go around like this. Well, that pushes a lot of shear, which remember we said is bad for hurricanes and tropical systems. We're going to talk more about that in a second. That kind of causes more shear on the right side. Remember, we have Arthur located right around here, right? He's actually a little bit further to the west, but that shear helps to rip apart the storm. And also this upper level low has allowed the storm to stay off to the east. And it's also, with this upper pattern, caused Arthur to lose some of those tropical characteristics. So
they don't like shear. Tropical systems don't like wind shear.
All those things kind of playing into factor, and like we were just mentioning, tropical systems don't like wind shear. So
because it makes them lean, the storm as a whole kind of lean just a little bit.
So storm standing up straight, just like that. If we wanted a stronger storm. By the way, what goes for hurricanes also goes for tropical storms. They want to stand up as straight as possible. But there's the
so the strong wind shear disrupts the wind flow, like you were just talking about. It's going to lean a little bit more, tilt a little bit more, and the wind often kind of rips storm. So it's an unfavorable environment for additional strengthening. And that's something we also look for in weather models too.
Yeah, and to let you know, that's the wind speed. Talking shear, we're talking about the wind speed increasing with height. So you see the winds would be picking up slower at the surface, but faster as we get higher and higher.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of is a brief explanation on what shear is. We talked about it a lot more a few weeks ago on our Tuesday segment. Don't forget that you can go back and check those out. And guys, we're not seeing many comments. Go ahead and comment. We would love to hear what y'all have to say, how your days are going, and also just, what you would like to also hear about Arthur and tropical systems as a whole. We'd love to answer your questions.
So now we're kind of getting into the ingredients to support strengthening, right? And one of them would be sea surface temperatures, warm water. So think of warm water as fuel, and that tropical system as an engine. Think of your car, for example, that your engine needs, of course, gas, and gas helps run the car, and so it's kind of like that.
So yeah, warm water is fuel for these storms. It is the gas for the storms to keep going. And you'll notice right through here, I'm gonna draw a line on either side of this, and then up the Florida coastline. We had really warm water temperatures. So with lower shear at the time, And then also warm water temperatures, that's where Arthur formed, and that's where it traveled along. And that's why it was able to form so quickly and kind of get everything going, because it was in an area of warmer water. Now it's going to move into an area where it's a little bit cooler right here. And that's going to cause the storm to weaken possibly even more. As we saw in the forecast track, it's expected to weaken possibly with only 20-mile-per-hour winds here over these next few days. That, on top of the shear, everything is not going good for Arthur right now.
So it could weaken over the next 48 hours. Well, not could, but it's likely.
Yes, very likely there as Arthur continues to move away from the U.S. By the way, no more impacts expected other than some rip currents on the East Coast for the United States from Arthur. Now, I want to show the Colorado State University forecast again for the 2020 hurricane season. Again, we are expecting an above-average season. 16 named storms will be possible. Those could be hurricanes. My dog is making all sorts of noise. And 4 of those could be major hurricanes, which is, remember, Category 3 or higher. So we've already had 1 named storm. That was, again, Arthur. We could be seeing a little bit more activity coming up because hurricane season's in less than 2 weeks now. In
fact, the National Hurricane Center will be releasing their information, I believe, the 21st.
Yes.
So it's going to be this week. And so we'll definitely update you and show some comparisons there. But of course, this is done by Colorado State University. And looking at above average season, but it doesn't necessarily mean that each tropical system or major hurricane or even hurricane for that matter will impact land. Some of them could stay out in open water.
Yeah. And, Colorado State University, a lot of people may be sitting there saying, wait, Colorado State, that's nowhere near the ocean. Why is their forecast so important? Actually, some of the best research for tropical meteorology out there right now is coming out of Colorado State University. So it's been like that for years. It's all about where the right professor is, the guy who's doing the best research. And he happened to be at Colorado State University. The guy who was originally doing that research passed a few years ago. But now there's a man called, his name is Dr. Philip Klausbach, and he does phenomenal research. He's on Twitter. Follow him. He's got so many great facts.
Great. Yeah, they're so interesting.
So many great facts, and he's a teacher in his own way. I mean, he's constantly teaching everybody there on Twitter about all sorts of random facts about different storms. So he does great work up there at Colorado State University. So above average forecast expected from Colorado State. We'll see what the National Hurricane Center has to say. We actually both know the head of the National Hurricane Center. Really nice guy. Used to work down in Slidell, Louisiana.
Ken Graham.
Yeah. Ken Graham is a great guy and also a great meteorologist. He's done a lot of kind of focus on storm surge, which was a big deal when he was working down in Slidell, which is near New Orleans, because storm surge to ever hit the U.S. happened along the Mississippi coast during Hurricane Katrina.
Now, I want to answer a few comments here. We have Patrick Hart saying, good afternoon. Hey, Patrick, glad that you're joining us today. We have Addison joining us as well. Addison, you're one of our loyal weather classroom viewers, so we're also glad to hear. And then Robert Burns also says, let's hope nature didn't get the memo about the above average season.
But remember, this is just a forecast. This is a guarantee. Let's cross our fingers and hope Mother Nature didn't get the memo. And we could have things that could happen throughout the season, like we talk about Saharan dust. That can sometimes impact the hurricane season.
It's dry air in place, so once it moves over water, that could limit tropical activity.
Yeah, let's hope that can happen. Let's hope
that was the case last summer too.
Yeah, that was the case, and then let's hope shear can happen, like what happened to Arthur. Strong shear caused the storm to get ripped apart and lean over. And we'll just have to watch that closely. Of course, we have a lot of different names on the list here. Arthur already used, already a post-tropical system, and will continue to fall apart. The next name storm, remember, it goes man, woman for name. Is a woman's name, Bertha. And that right now, we don't know when Bertha could form. Again, there's a tropical wave east of the Lesser Antilles that has no chance for tropical development. It's just too much shear out there and doesn't have enough going for it. But we'll watch everything closely. And of course, we're going to let y'all know whenever we have a tropical system forming, even if it's not going to impact Texas. A lot of people have family and friends who could be over in Florida. A lot of us here in South Texas may even have family and friends down towards Mexico and into the Caribbean. Maybe family and friends in Cuba or Puerto Rico, areas that all can be impacted by tropical systems. So we'll always remember to mention it to y'all and keep you updated whenever a tropical system could threaten even the East Coast or the Gulf.
And I want to give a quick shout out to Kevin, who has been also one of our loyal Weather Classroom viewers. He's been watching since day one on YouTube. So Kevin, thank you so much for watching.
Nice, yeah, thank you, Kevin.
And I hear this is like part of his weekday routine. So he's always tuning in at 1 p.m.
Very cool. Kevin, I'm glad that you're joining us now here on Facebook.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to also our YouTube viewers. Of course, we don't really have a way of being able to make sure we can keep track of your comments on YouTube as well. But we love being able to answer any of your questions and comments on Facebook too, if you can ever come over and join us here. Ali, do you come over here? He's got a lot to say today himself.
Yeah.
So Emily is here. Sorry, she says, I'm sorry I'm late. No problem, Emily, of course.
Emily.
If you missed a little bit, you can always rewind and see some of those earlier talks. Again, today's talk has been all about Arthur, which is our first named storm of the tropical season. Got its name Saturday night. It was at first an invest. And you may be saying, well, what is an invest? Well, it's an area of organized storms that we're watching closely for tropical development.
Investigating.
Yeah, investigating. And they'll name these like 90L and 91L, and that just try to give them different codes that we can identify them as, because sometimes there's multiple waves out there that we're watching, and they'll be 90L, 92L, 93, 95, 96 that we're all trying to keep an eye on. And then the National Hurricane Center will put out a discussion saying 92L formed into this one formed into this, and we'll be able to find out what each of these storms are doing.
We have Massey joining us and asking, have I been a hurricane this year, LOL. So let's go ahead and pull up the name list again, just so you can see that.
Yeah, we can bring that up.
So Addison says her grandma is in Lubbock.
Ooh, it's going to be hot there for today. They're expecting temperatures to rise well into the triple digits. So hot weather over in Lubbock today.
Yeah. And it's going to be hot here too.
Yeah. Temperatures here today are expected to rise into the 90s and triple digits. So make sure you drink plenty of water, wear plenty of sunscreen, and be careful if you are going to be outside today. Ali? No.
And Ali also says hello.
Yes, he does. Ali, shush. So I'm going to go handle Ali real quick. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to go kind of just try to calm him down a little bit. Here, Alice.
So while Andrew's doing that, what I'm going to do is go back into what we're looking at with Arthur now. You know, we've been talking about it over the weekend and some of our newscasts. Right now, Arthur has downgraded to now a post-tropical low, meaning it's lost a lot of its tropical characteristics. You know, winds right now still a little up there, about 60 miles per hour. So the winds have strengthened, but like I said, it's lost a lot of its tropical characteristics. Still moving east pretty quickly at about 15 miles per hour. The pressure at 191 millibars. And of course, it's not expected to impact U.S. soil like you were saying, Andrew.
Yeah, it's expected to just kind of stay out there in the Atlantic, possibly bringing a little bit of rain down around Bermuda, which is way out there in the Atlantic, but not expected to cause too much of an issue for them because only 5-mile-per-hour winds, and it'll be a post-tropical system by the time it arrives there.
And looking at this 3 to 6 hour loop, you can tell that there's not really circulation with this as much.
Yeah, and shear has been a big impact of that.
So we're going to go ahead and throw up the schedule here.
Yeah, give us 1 second, guys. So we again have Tropical Tuesday was today. We have What Causes When coming up on Wednesday, and then the speed of sound and lightning coming up on Thursday. So I hope that y'all really have enjoyed the Tropical Tuesday talks. This is actually our last day of Tropical Tuesday. Now, don't forget, we are still doing Cloudy with a Chance of Learning through this summer. So we're in a summer summer term now that's going to continue all the way through at least July. So this is going to continue. I hope you all have this segment because we're going to continue this over the next few weeks. We have a speed of sound and lightning again on Thursday. Friday will be Fun Time Friday. This is the last time we'll do a Tropics Tuesday. That is unless we start to get a lot more tropical systems out there, since we have covered so much on the tropics these last few weeks. If you missed out on the last few weeks of Tropics Tuesday, make sure that you go back and watch it. We have a special playlist on YouTube where you can go back and watch the Tropics Tuesdays, as well as all of our Cloudy with a Chance of Learnings. We had done Solar System Mondays for the past 4 weeks. Meteorologist Meagan Massey wrapped up Solar System Mondays just last Monday, and we're going to find a new series to kind of add into Mondays and Tuesdays. So be sure to stay tuned for that. We're releasing that probably later on this week, closer on towards Friday. So looking like, again, that we could have an above average season, so we could have a lot more to talk about. And, we'll be talking about that on Ken's 5 with the National Hurricane Center's latest forecast when it comes out on Thursday. So, guys, we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. We're going to continue to track everything, of course, right here behind the scenes. And we'll be live again, of course, tomorrow at 1 p.m. with the What Causes Wind segment here for Cloudy with a Chance of Learning. Then speed of sound and lightning coming in on Thursday. Also, don't forget, send us your photos and your drawings as we move into Friday, because we want to share them for Fun Time Friday. Remember, we've been sharing everybody's photos and pictures that they're sending in. Pictures you may take, whatever photos, whatever notes, just even if it's a photo of you watching our Cloudy with a Chance of Learning segment, we would love to show that for Fun Friday. So send that in to awilson@kens5.com, btaylor@kens5.com. You could also send it to Massey, that's for Meagan Massey, at kens5.com. We would love to share your photos and drawings with everybody at home. So again, this wraps up today's segment of Cloudy with a Chance of Learning. We hope that everybody has a wonderful Tuesday across the area. Wear plenty of sunscreen and also drink plenty of water if you're going to be outside. We hope that you have a wonderful day, and just try to stay cool out there, guys. Have a good one.